Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a tactics talk and another in my series of what is the best tank. This time tier 6 light tanks, and this one was fascinating. I found this one to be really interesting because there's a deep dark secret kind of in the well, it's glaring once you look at it, and maybe you're even looking at it right now. The deep dark secret of light tanks. Kind of a general deep dark secret, but in particular at tier 6. So let's get started. You can see I've got the type here. I've got all of the tier 6 light tanks right here. Recently, we have had several tier 6 light tanks reintroduced, kind of special tanks. The Super Chaffee, which you can see right here, and the 10.5 or the VK2801 MIT derp gun sitting right there. But we'll start off by showing this, which I have 3 marked. Interestingly, I am currently at 80% in that. So I 3 marked it back in the day, apparently. And since I have done that, people have gone crazy. The 3 mark fetish, my friends, is real. It is real. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're going to talk about this. Again, tanks.gg, not tanks.gg, tomato.gg. We're looking at NA stats for the last 60 days, so we really want to delve into what the current meta is showing. There is a clear winner, and it could not be clearer in this case. You already saw it in the garage. I'm going to quickly show you where the Type 64 lives, then we're going to delve into it and break this down just a little bit, and then we're going to talk about the deep dark secret. Those of you who have been around for a while, I think already kind of know what I'm going to say here. But win 8, 1651. 52% win rate, top DPG, top frags, top damage ratio, top kill death, top survival. That's surprising, but there you go. And it only loses to the T50-2 YOLO artists in terms of spots. I don't know why T50-2 players are the YOLO artists of the entire game, but they really are. I need to see if they are the top spots, but man, they have to be close. And even if they're not, at this tier, they are YOLO artists. I'm just chucking that out there. I know this isn't about the YOLO artistry of the T50-2, but that, fight me. Prove I'm wrong, right? Change my mind. All right. Type 64 win 8. This is fascinating. It is clearly an outlier. It is 141 above the next AMX 12T. What I will say about those stats, we went through them fast, we'll take a look at them a little bit closer, is I was surprised that actually number 2 is the 12T. So we go win 8, win rate. It's what, 4th? DPG 2nd, frags 2nd, damage ratio 2nd, kills to death 2nd, survival 2nd. 12T, that's great actually. And that's, other than the ridiculousness of the type, we'll get to that in a minute, that is a sign of a healthy class / placement that a tech tree tank is doing that well. That means that other than the Type 64, which is ridiculous, the rest of the premiums are not clustered at the top. You will be hard pressed to find any other grouping of specific classes where that is not true. There's probably a couple out there, but I like that. That's nice. It is nice. All right, so Type 64 Deep Dark Secret, I've already alluded to it a couple times. What is it? Why is this thing so good? Well, back in the day, kids, sit around and listen to Papa Guido talk about the good old days. And some of you were there. I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. So in the past, light tanks had a different kind of matchmaking. Your tier 8 light tanks would see tier 10s. They had special matchmaking. The Type 64 came out during that time frame. So even though it was a tier 6, it would very frequently, I want to say it went up to tier 9, I think, or maybe even 10. It was pretty high. But it was a different kind of matchmaking. And it was designed for that. It was built for that. Its stats were set up for that. And it was pretty good then. Then along came the dark days, the conflagration, the disturbance in the force. And that was when they made a big rewicker of the matchmaker in both artillery and light tanks. Now, I don't remember if it was at the same time, but it was fairly close if it was not at the same time. What that meant was, because Wargaming refuses to balance premium tanks, is the Type 64 stayed at Tier 6, got the new matchmaking, and did not get nerfed. That's none of my business, though, right? That's none of my business. So you have a wildly overpowered Tier 6. In comparison to the other Tier 6s, just ridiculously, wildly overpowered Tier 6. It is one of the most played. It's down here at 4th. The other free ones are played quite a bit, which you would expect. We talked about the win rate. The win rate is a almost full 2% higher than the next best, 59-16, which actually surprised me a little bit. That's pretty good for the 59-16. And then I already showed you all of the other stats. So the Type 64 is a tank that 100,000 million percent by the numbers, and Wargaming always talks about wanting to collect the numbers, needs a nerf in the worst possible way and has needed one for a very, very long time and will not get one because people bought it. And Wargaming doesn't want to balance their tanks. Really what they don't want is they don't want the pain of balancing a premium tank and listening to all the bitching and complaining. Now, that is going to be controversial. I can already hear the tappity tap on the keyboards, and people are like, well, screw you, Guido. I bought that. You can't touch it. Well, it's not me touching it. They can't touch it, all that good stuff. Well, that may very well be. That may very well be, and that is what we have, so it's not like it's going to change. But we have to be realistic and understand that in terms of what it does to this tier's light tanks, it makes the Type 64 the obvious best Tier 6 light tank. I don't even have to go through the rest of it. I don't have to, but we will, because there's some other cool things I think I found in that. So there you go. The great confluence, the disturbance in the force, the awakening, the change, whatever you want to call it, created, because it wasn't nerfed during that, a monster. It is a little beast. It really is. All right. That being said, surprise, 12T. I like that, man. Little French tank, autoloader, is quite the little monster. You know what also surprised me? What on earth? The T21 is really up there. And I think if you ask somebody what one of the best light tanks was at Tier 6, I don't know if anybody would have said the T21. If you were one of the people that said T21, put it down there in the comments, because I think that's pretty awesome. Maybe you've played it recently and you know it's actually a pretty solid little tank. I always kind of liked it. I don't think I would have ever said it was in the top 5 of Tier 6s. Or let's call it top 3, because there's not very many. So top 5 does cover quite a bit of ground when you're only talking about 12 or whatever's in there. So that was a bit surprising. 59-16 doing well. The MT25 is lower than I would have thought in terms of win rate. Here's what I also wanted to cover, though. I kind of like this. The A46, T50-2, 2801, and the Super Chaffee blew my mind. It's a bottom dweller, my friends. Look, win rate, blah, nothing. Win rate, holy cow, second from the last. DPG, second from last. Frags, last. Damage ratio, terrible. Kill to death, bottom. All right? I know that there's a lot of people that say the Super Chaffee is pretty darn bad, and the numbers pretty much tend to agree. I kind of like it. It's a fun tank, but that goes back to what we've talked about many, many times in this series, that there are tanks that we will all like that are objectively not very good tanks. So that doesn't have anything to do with me saying it's a bad tank because its stats are bad, so you have a bad opinion. That is not it. It's just objectively not doing great. It really isn't. But that surprised me that it was that far down. But we can also talk about the A46, T50-2, and 2801. That means that generally Wargaming has done a pretty good job of making relatively balanced light tanks for these new tanks that came out. And they are fairly new. Now, because they are gifts and not for purchase, the cynical man would connect those two and obviously say, well, that's why they are balanced, because they're not making money off them, so why just give free overpowered tanks? Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I hear your noise, man, and I cannot discount that in any way. Because they're not reward tanks, right? They were gifts. And they're not for purchase. They were gifts. I think the second finger was gift. That was reward. Yeah, okay. But I thought that was interesting because the stats kind of bear that out. You know, 12T doing pretty good. Got some other tanks. I was a bit surprised also by the T-37. And check out the wheeled tank. This is probably the one wheeled tank. Now we're going to have to reset everything up because I buffooned it here. This is probably the one wheeled tank, and I'd have to dig through it. And we'll get there because we're going to go to Tier 7 next after this. I'll be interested to see where the EBR and the other wheeled tanks are sitting right now in light tank land. But the 178 Bravo is not so much. And I would agree with that. It's not a great light tank. It's kind of funny and goofy, but it's not really solid. So it lives down at the bottom down here. So pretty fascinating, I thought, overall with this particular setup. What you have is a clearly overpowered, probably anachronism from the past, the Type 64, sitting at Tier 6 when everything else got nerfed and moved down tiers or moved up tiers. Actually, I guess it was moved up, I think. They got moved up, yeah. Some got little buffs, especially when we're talking about, obviously, the Tech Tree tanks, and then there were tanks added, the Tier 9 and 10 tanks. So we had a big shift and movement of light tanks, but nothing happened. It stayed where it was, had the stats it had when it used to see, I want to say, Tier 9s and stuff, and it's obviously overpowered. Number 2, 12T, solid little tank. I actually played that fairly recently, I think. I think I took it to, I want to say I took it to 100 battles because it was a tank that got added and I never really played it. So that was relatively recently, within, I would say, the last couple years. Interesting that it's there. Surprised by the T21 and the 5916. I would have certainly said the MT25 was probably better than any of these, but not necessarily. And then we've got the cluster of the premiums and the also runs down here with the Super Chaffee sitting at the bottom. So there you go. I thought there was some kind of fascinating stats in there. We go to win rate. Let's see, we go to GPG, anything jump out at you, that 20-1 with the derp starts to come up with the damage, so it does okay. It's creeping up. I would say probably the best of the rest of premiums, it looks to be the 2801 is sort of hanging out in the top 5 or so, top 3 sometimes, so he actually does okay. Survival is down pretty low there as well. So cool. That's what I've got, man. It's definitely the T50, or sorry, the Type 64. And I am going to come in with the 12T as number 2, and obviously a number 1 on the tech tree list. Like, if you could just, this is one of those ones you might just go, well, discount the Type 64 because it's such an outlier and it has a specific reason why it's so much better. That's very obvious, and you might go, well, the 12T is the winner, right? But you can't discount. The Type 64 is still there. People have it, and it's just rocking and rolling at a 1651 win rate and 52.39% win rate. All right, let's go play that Type 64 a bit here. All right, here we are loaded in, getting ready to go. Not a bad setup for me. I am 1 tier down, so that's okay. There's a 1357 to deal with. You'll notice that I have Binox running optics and the low noise exhaust, so I got a bit of an anachronistic setup. That speaks a lot to how long it's been since I really played this. I have a lot of battles in this thing, and I used to play it a ton. It was one of my go-to relaxation, have fun tanks. But since I've been doing so much 100 battle challenge and higher tier stuff, it's been a long time since I've really played this thing. So we're going to get a bunch of guys go up to there. Always dangerous. You know, I could be dead in seconds here, and then that'll be the whole thing you see in terms of the replay for this. But let's see if we can sneak in here and try and get up into this bush without being seen and get some spottage going on. There we go. So we'll just hang out here for a moment. Watch out for the rear end getting spotted. We got a T20 going in. So we've seen quite a few tanks head into town. We're getting 0 spotting damage out of it, though. It looks like the hill has been spotted itself. There we go. So that's getting me a little bit. So we got that guy dead. Is anybody going to get this tiger? Because I'm going to bail out of here pretty quickly. We'll wait for him to cross that road so when I'm moving he doesn't see me. Yep, let's go. This is the dangerous part here because if they start filtering through and catch a glimpse, you might eat some shots. So we'll head on out that way. So that's kind of the nice thing about this tank. I got in there, got the Binox going because I was still. So I don't know if that was the big deal with the burn through. catching the Hellcat up there. He may have fired and it might have been seen regardless of whether I had binocs or not. So we're going to head back this way. See, I swing over here and see if I can't maybe get some shots. If they kind of hang out peeking in this road, I might get some shots without being spotted here. Just knock down that thing. This thing doesn't have a whole lot of... There we go. Is he going to come out? This thing does not have a whole bunch. These guys are pushing hard in here. Of ammo. I have had trouble in the past running out of ammo in this thing. It reloads so fast. Is that building break? Yeah. There we go. He's crossing. No. Oh, this is ugly here. Even with gold, I'm having trouble pinning that guy. Alright, I gotta get out of here because these dudes are gonna... Yeah, so we just lost wholesale in the city. Kind of hang out here and see if we can't... Actually, I'm gonna go one more building. Or one more bush up here, and there we go. That's no good. Yeah, we got all kinds of people shooting at me. Yep, and that's about what you might expect. Just getting wrecked here, huh? Tiger P, I'm probably never going to pen that guy. I need a better target, maybe. Pollack? No, he's got pretty good on this guy. No. Yep. Struggle bus, man. Team just kind of... Oh, and then I run into this guy. He's got the autoloader going on. So we got 1100 spotting. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't an amazing job. It was okay. It's going to hurt because I'm going to get pushed by this guy. Ha! Very painful when they're circling. You try to auto aim like that. Of course, he didn't have any trouble with it. Although I wasn't generating any line of sight, and he was. So I was sort of one spot. So he's able to just do that in 1357. So there you go, my friends. 649 damage, 1,173 assist. Did not exactly prove my point that it's the most overpowered tier 6 light tank in there, but in a pretty much romple stomp loss, I ended up with okay numbers out of it. Let's see, did I get the average, actually? Let's see what the average is on a Tier 6 light tank. DPG for the Type 64 is 608. So I overperformed, my friends. Let's see what we got here. We got 649, and the average is 608 DPG. So there you go. I did not get a frag, so I underperformed. Damage ratio was a little off, I think, right there. And I did not survive. I did not survive. Very nice. All right, well, there you go. Let me know what you think down below. What is the best Tier 6 light tank in your opinion? What's the one you like the best, and which one do you think is the best based on the numbers? I know that mixes things up just a little bit, but everybody likes to come in and go at me when they're like, oh, the numbers, blah. It's really, you know, who does best in what. Yep, that's true. That's 100% true, but by the numbers, Type 64, currently in the last 60 days, the best Tier 6 light tank. That's all I've got. We will see ya.